I used to think my aunt's kiosk smelled like hope. It wasn't much to look at, just rough timber nailed together, with shelves carrying bars of soap, sachets of cooking oil, a few matchboxes, and sometimes dried fish hanging from a nail. But whenever I stood there watching her count coins with her careful fingers, I felt like the world was bigger than our grandmother's compound. My aunt was my father's sister, though they couldn't have been more different. Where he had left with nothing but silence, she stayed, carrying burdens that weren't hers and making them feel like duty. She wasn't rich. In fact, most people in the trading center thought of her as just another struggling woman trying to make ends meet. But to me, she was the reason I could walk into school with a uniform, even if it was a second-hand one, and carry an exercise book instead of writing in the dust with a stick. Every Monday morning, she would press a few coins into my hand, her voice firm but kind. "Don't waste it. Use it wisely. This is not just for you, it's for the ones who follow you." I knew what she meant. My siblings looked up to me, and she expected me to pull them along by doing well in school. School was nothing fancy. The classroom walls were mud, the roof patched with rusted tin that clattered like stones whenever it rained. The desks were carved with names and hats scratched by those who sat before us. Sometimes bats flew overhead, their droppings landing on our books if we weren't quick to brush them away. But to me, it was a palace. The chalkboard, smeared with half-erased lessons, felt like a doorway to a world far away from hunger and gossip. I worked hard. I copied every word the teacher wrote, even the ones I didn't understand. I stayed behind after lessons, asking questions that made some children laugh at me. But I didn't care. Each time I solved a problem correctly, I felt like I was lifting not just myself but my whole family out of shame. My classmates noticed. Some teased me for being too serious, but others envied small things, like the day my aunt bought me a pencil sharpener. It was blue and fit in my palm like a secret treasure. Most children used razor blades to sharpen their pencils or chewed them into points with their teeth. But I had something different, something that made me feel, just for a moment, like I belonged to a world where things were easier. Even with the joy of school, evenings always reminded me of reality. After lessons, I walked back barefoot along the dusty road, the exercise book in one hand and my youngest sibling's fingers in the other. He was small, still stumbling sometimes, but he insisted on waiting for me at the school gate. Together we walked home while the sun sank behind the hills, painting the sky in oranges and purples. Behind us, our shadows stretched long and thin, as if reminding me of the weight I carried. At home, Grandma rarely asked about school. To her, education didn't cook food. She measured success by how much cassava survived the poor soil, not by how well I wrote my name. Sometimes, after scolding me for returning late, she would toss me a bundle of firewood and tell me to cook for the others before darkness fell. My siblings would sit in a circle, waiting for ugali that stretched too thin and sukuma wiki chopped so small it was more green water than stew. There were nights I lay awake on the cold floor, hunger gnawing at my stomach, wondering if the effort at school was worth it. I wondered if letters and numbers could really change the sound of Grandma's harsh voice or stop the whispers in the village. But every morning, when I stepped back into the classroom, my doubts fell silent. It was in those years I began to dream. Not loudly, not with words I dared to share, but quietly inside myself. I dreamed of wearing neat clothes that weren't patched, of walking into shops without counting every coin, of my siblings sitting at a table full of food instead of scraping the bottom of a pot. My aunt's presence kept those dreams alive. Whenever she visited Grandma's house, she looked at me differently. Not with pity, not with harshness, but with expectation. As though she could already see something in me that no one else believed in. She promised that if I worked hard, she would find a way to push me further, even to college. At that time, college sounded like another planet. I didn't know anyone who had gone, and I couldn't imagine what it looked like. But the way she said it made me believe it was real, and that belief was enough to keep me going. Still, life was never easy. Hunger and shame walked beside me every day. My siblings' eyes followed me like shadows, waiting for me to become something more than just the girl carrying a one exercise book. And I carried them in my heart each and every time I wrote my name on the first line of my notebook. I didn't know where the road would lead. All I knew was that my aunt believed in me, and for now, that was enough.